the first part, when Chansey found out that Dawenji asked Xiaoji to date him, he decided to give her a chance to see if he could love her. Of course, Xiaoji was happy since she liked him and forgot about her agreement with our girl. But it's no big deal. Our girl will remain strong. Nothing can shake her. Even his friends were surprised at how calm she was. But what could she do? Surely she wouldn't beg him to come back to her. What was frustrating, though, was how Xiaoji would come to her every day, sharing stories about her time with him. I mean, the girl wasn't obligated to listen to their adventures. Our girl would share all of this with Zhuzi, who couldn't believe how Xiaoji could talk about their relationship, knowing she was his ex. One day, she saw them passing by, arguing. She was about to leave, but overheard Dawenji telling him, "Kiss her if you really want to prove you don't love Chansey anymore and have moved on." She stopped to listen, hoping he wouldn't do it, but he kissed her. Later, while sitting with Zhuzi in a cafe, Dawenji walked in with Xiaoji. Our girl dragged Zhuzi to sit with them. As usual, Xiaoji wouldn't stop talking about their relationship, and he scolded her to make her stop. She then told them about a resort in the mountains owned by her family and invited them to join her there. Our girl refused, but Zhuzi accidentally agreed, so she ended up going. While they were there, Zhuzi got up to do something, so our girl asked Dawenji, "Is this the same guy she said was dumb and quiet, but that she loves anyway?" He confirmed, yeah, she's always loved him. Then Xiaoji dragged her into the sauna, where she wouldn't stop rambling. She went on and on. Poor Chansey didn't understand why Xiaoji was so obsessed with him until she passed out. When she fainted, our girl screamed for Dawenji, telling him Xiaoji had passed out in the bathroom while undressed. By the time she got out, Zhuzi had already carried her to her room. When Xiaoji woke up, she asked him how he brought her there while she was naked. Of course, he told her he had dressed her. What else would he do? She told him, "I wish we hadn't come here. Why do I have to hear about their relationship all the time?" He told her, "You can go break down his door if you want." Meanwhile, Dawenji was frustrated from overthinking. Xiaoji told him she wanted to live with him in his house, but he refused. She said it didn't matter, then pulled him into bed. He made her get dressed and told her it wasn't appropriate. She threw a tantrum, stomping and crying because he wouldn't give her a chance. Our girl overheard and thought he was forcing Xiaoji into something, but when she entered the room, she found him lying on the floor with Xiaoji on top of him. She quickly left, regretting coming there in the first place. The next day, she stood there cursing her luck after hearing that they had spent the night together. She asked Zhuzi to turn his back so she could lean on him. She wanted to cry without anyone seeing. When she returned home, her family was packing to return to their village, where they planned to work and pay off their debt. Afterward, Xiaoji showed up again, because what else is new? But this time, she came to say that nothing had happened between them the night before. She decided to break up with him, realizing he didn't love her at all. She asked our girl to stay friends with her because she genuinely liked her and hoped she and Zhuzi would get back together and live happily. Before leaving, Xiaoji told her, "Do you know why I broke up with him? Because he said the only person he thinks about is you." Even Zhuzi went to his mother to tell her he was leaving Xiaoji because he loved Chansey. It turned into a huge argument that didn't end. Meanwhile, our girl had invited all her friends over. They told her, "You know who's missing? Dawenji." But she replied, "My house is small, I don't need extra people." Then the extra guests showed up, interrupting their gathering. She accused her of being a hypocrite and trying to keep her son away from Xiaoji, insulting her and her family. But our girl couldn't hold it in anymore and said, "What? Is it just you and your son in this world? You only measure people by money and looks? Let me tell you, sophistication has never been about wealth. It's people like you with shallow minds who set these values. Now get out without saying another word." Everyone applauded her for standing her ground. After that, she decided she wouldn't let anything come between her and Dawenji, no matter what. But one day, the landlord showed up and told her he had sold the house because his daughter was sick and he needed the money. He offered to refund her rent and compensate her, but she had to leave immediately. She packed her things and left, feeling heartbroken. She even asked her mom if life in the village was any good. Meanwhile, our guy's friends told him about what had happened between Chansey and his mom. He couldn't believe it and rushed out, determined to be with her, humming a song like, "I'll challenge the world with you by my side." His friends asked, "Why the hurry? Aren't you afraid of your mom?" But he didn't care. His priority was staying by Chansey's side. When he got to her place, she was sitting outside. He hugged her, saying he knew everything and wouldn't leave her again. He then noticed all the bags and asked, What's with all the luggage? She explained she had been evicted and planned to stay at a friend's place. He replied, "A friend? Why stay with a friend when your boyfriend's house is open?" She was hesitant, especially after her argument with his mom, but she went along. When she met his grandmother, he introduced her as his girlfriend and said she would be living there. The grandmother asked her to clean the house and cook in exchange for staying there. Do-eun-ji yelled, "How can you say that? She's not a maid." The grandmother clarified, "She's not a servant, she'll just work." Surprisingly, Chansey agreed, saying she had always worked for her living and didn't accept charity. Do-eun-ji was frustrated, saying, "Are you crazy too? I brought you here because you're my girlfriend." She replied, "Let me decide for myself. It's my choice." She began working just like the other girls at the house. One morning she brought him milk, only to find him sleeping shirtless. She thought to cover him with a blanket but ended up falling into his arms as he pulled her close, pretending to be asleep. He eventually got up, drank the milk, and confessed he had been worried she might end up with Juzi, which is why he left Xiaoji and stood up to his mom. She assured him that wasn't the case. He teased her, saying, "Didn't you say you'd stand up to my mom? Don't go back on your word now, kitten." One day she prepared food, and he invited her to eat with him. She refused, fearing his grandmother's reaction, but he insisted. So she invited the other girls working with her to join them, saying, "If it's okay, we'll all eat together." He agreed, but then whispered, "Fine, meet me tonight after everyone's asleep." She stayed in her room, worried he might come at any moment, even though she had locked the door. She imagined him breaking it down, creating a scene. She thought about escaping but didn't get far before he caught her. He had been waiting for her to come out for an hour. He said, "The era of shyness is over. You're coming with me now." But he surprised her by taking her to see the stars and meteors. He asked her to make a wish, then gave her a gift, a necklace he had prepared for their relationship's beginning. As he leaned in to kiss her, she hesitated, fearing she couldn't love him as much as he loved her. He reassured her, "It doesn't matter who loves more. What matters is that I love you, and you trust me." He suggested they try dating for a month, to which she replied, "I'll give you an answer by tomorrow morning at the latest." Shocked, he asked, "Tomorrow morning? Why so soon?" She teased, "Would you prefer 3 minutes?" Then quickly said, "Tomorrow morning is better than deciding now." The next day, while cleaning his room, he reminded her, "Aren't you forgetting something important?" She told him she agreed to date him for a month, but warned that if she felt she couldn't love him, she would leave on her own. He was thrilled, saying the final result didn't matter. What mattered was that they were trying. The important thing is, they're officially a couple now. Congratulations, buddy. At university, the moment he saw her, he went to get her so they could eat together, and soon all their friends knew they were in a relationship. But she felt uneasy because so many people were staring at her. He brushed it off, saying it was normal since he was popular, and he wasn't going to let her break up with him over something so trivial. At home, she brought fruit for him and his friends. He wanted her to feed him directly. And as soon as she did, Mizo and Shimi opened their mouths too, expecting the same. He shut them down, saying, "Hands off, she's my girlfriend." Seizing the moment, she asked him to go out with her. But not alone. She wanted him to come along with her friend, and her friend's boyfriend. It was like a double date, but he wasn't on board, saying he didn't know them, and sulked. She brushed it off, saying she'd go alone then. When the day came, she told her friend and her friend's boyfriend that Do-eun-ji was busy and couldn't make it. She also decided to leave so she wouldn't feel awkward being the odd one out. To her surprise, he showed up. He couldn't say no to her after all. However, her friend's boyfriend turned out to be a pest, asking intrusive questions no one would dare to ask. Do-eun-ji finally snapped and asked her, "How does your friend even tolerate this guy? He's so annoying." Later, they went to a haunted house attraction. Though Do-eun-ji objected to everything at first, he eventually agreed and reassured her, "Don't worry, none of this is real." Ironically, he was the first one to scream. When they came out, Sherry's boyfriend went to buy a drink but annoyed Do-eun-ji again, mocking him, saying he was too childish to join them for a drink. Do-eun-ji walked off to grab something to cool off before he lost his temper. That's when he saw the guy flirting with 2 girls. The boyfriend had the audacity to suggest, "What do you think of these 2? Why don't you pick one instead of sticking with your boring girlfriend?" That was the final straw. Do-eun-ji punched him for being a 2-timer. When Chansey and Sherry arrived and asked what was going on, he refused to explain. Frustrated, Chansey followed him home and asked his friends, Where's the one who acts like a tough guy and keeps hitting people? Fozzie told her he was in the bathroom, and like a fool, she opened the door on him. Of course, he wasn't dressed. When he came out, she scolded him for embarrassing her in front of her friend. She wanted him to apologize, but he retorted, "My bad, I guess. May the Lord grant him patience to deal with this," and walked off, leaving her upset. The next day, while she was apologizing to Sherry, they overheard her boyfriend telling someone, "My girlfriend is so boring and uptight, she won't even let me kiss her." Chansey was stunned but didn't hesitate. She punched him in the stomach, standing up for herself. Shimin saw Sherry crying on the street and tried to comfort her. He then decided to get back at that guy for hurting her. Coincidentally, Dawenji was also there, and they both confronted him together. The guy's irritating attitude triggered Dawenji, and he ended up punching him again. When they stepped outside, Dawenji turned to Chansey and said, "So, what do you think now?" She sarcastically replied, "Think about what, you idiot? You punched the guy and walked off without saying a word." Shimin and Sherry, fed up with the constant bickering, decided to leave together. Chansey turned to Dawenji and demanded, "Where are you taking my friend?" He teased her. "Relax, he likes bold girls. He's not going to eat your friend." Still, she worried her friend might fall for Shimin. Dawenji snapped, "I wish you cared about our relationship a fraction as much as you care about everyone else's." He was starting to feel insecure, unsure if she truly loved him. With their dating trial nearing its end, he feared she might leave him. But then she hugged him and said she wanted their relationship to be official. Overwhelmed, he took her home, joking that they needed to check her mental state to make sure she wouldn't come back later, claiming she wasn't in her right mind when she said that. Later, she was helping him study and quizzing him from the book since they had an important lecture the next day. She complimented him, saying, "Bravo, see, you're smart." He replied cheekily, "Where's my sweet reward, Miss Memes?" and pulled her closer before she could escape. At university, the professor was reviewing their thesis and asked a question, which our guy confidently answered. After the lecture, she was a bit anxious about the results. Then a girl came up to her saying, "Lucky you, your boyfriend helps you study." Apparently, Mr. Popular had made their relationship public on social media, creating quite a buzz. She confronted him about why he talked so casually about their relationship online. He simply replied, "You're my girlfriend. Of course, I'd want to tell the world about us. Instead of thanking me for helping you yesterday, you're here nagging me." She argued back, saying she helped him too. And he admitted he had been meaning to thank her as well. He then invited her to go out with him. While they were out, he revealed that he planned to move to London after graduation. She asked if he'd ever return, but instead of answering, he teased, "Shouldn't you be begging me to stay by your side forever?" She fired back, "Well, if I did say that, would you actually stay?" One day, after leaving university, he caught up with her and asked where she was headed. She told him she was going home to sell some old clothes she no longer needed and had some housework to do. He offered to call his grandmother to give her the day off, but she refused, saying she was an employee and couldn't just skip work. At the house, the girls working there started rushing around because Madame Dawenji's mother had arrived. Panicked, she tried to gather her things before getting caught. Unable to figure out where to hide, she crawled under the table just as the mother entered. Unfortunately, her phone rang, and Madame Dawenji, who forbids the use of phones during work, followed the sound and told her to come out immediately. When she saw her, Madame Dawenji was shocked. "Aren't you the one who turned down $5 million and acted all self-righteous? And now you're working in my house?" The housekeeper came to her defense, explaining that she'd been working there for a while and had proven to be hardworking. She even noted how her presence had been good for Dawenji, who now studied regularly and was much happier than usual. But his mother wasn't swayed. She wanted her gone regardless. The housekeeper firmly stood her ground, telling Madame Dawenji that she wouldn't let her leave. However, the mother reminded her that she was the homeowner and had the final say about who stays and who goes. That's when the housekeeper reminded her not to forget that she was also Dawenji's grandmother, not just a housekeeper. She explained that Dawenji's grandfather had written in his will that she was to remain in charge of the household. Our girl started crying, and the grandmother comforted her, saying, "Stop crying already, I saved you and you're not going anywhere." Once things settled down, the grandmother wanted to understand how the girl ended up working with them. She explained that when she was 19, she was deep in debt, and Dawenji's grandfather helped her by giving her a job in the household. Over time, she became an integral part of the family, even raising Dawenji. But after Dawenji's father passed away, everything changed. Dawenji often came home beaten and miserable. This was the first time she'd seen him happy, and it was because of this girl. She decided to protect her and ensure no one could force her to leave. The girl, trying to act composed, pretended she was very busy and important. The grandmother laughed and said, "Hold it right there. Don't make me lose my temper with you." She stood there listening to the grandmother's plan. It turned out she wanted them to get married secretly without his mother knowing, and then drop the bombshell afterward, leaving her no choice but to accept it. She thought to herself, "Granny, are you planning my entire life too?" The next day, she was standing with her friends when he came over, wanting to figure out what had happened the day before. He took her to her favorite cafe, hoping to get some answers. But she dodged the topic, saying it was nothing. Of course, she couldn't spill the beans about his grandmother's plan. It would only cause trouble. He then told her he was planning to move out of the house. She looked at him skeptically, knowing full well he couldn't even carry a cup without spilling it. "How are you planning to move out on your own?" she asked. "I don't care," he said, "as long as I can protect you and keep my mom away from you." Later, when they went out, he suggested looking for a new house together. But she shut that down quickly. "No, you're coming with me and you're staying quiet," she told him, dragging him off for a game to burn off some energy. After they finished, he teased her. "You're so competitive, even when playing games. Who's going to want to marry someone like you?" She retorted, "Fine, go find yourself a soft-spoken girl and marry her then." He laughed, knowing he was only teasing her. After all, he wasn't interested in anyone else. By chance, they started talking about her family, and she mentioned how her parents had moved abroad to pay off their debts. He frowned and asked, "Why don't you ever rely on me for anything? Am I not good enough?" She explained that she didn't want to drag him into her problems. She believed their relationship needed to be balanced, where both of them put in equal effort. If she started relying on him too much, that balance would be disrupted. Then she surprised him by pulling him in for a kiss. Oh wow, things were heating up now. The next day, she was pacing around, talking to herself, still in disbelief that she had been the one to kiss him first. By sheer coincidence, Juzi overheard her monologue and said, "Ah, so that's why he's been laughing like a fool all day." She brushed it off, saying, "It's not a big deal. Everyone kisses each other casually as a form of greeting." "Oh, really? In that case, go ahead and kiss me too," he joked, grinning. Her face turned bright red, and she shoved a shoe in his face to shut him up. Moving on, he informed her that he had overheard something concerning. Zia's family and her boyfriend had signed contracts with Dao Ming's mom, and he suspected she might use it against them to cause trouble. Worried, she decided to check on them and also on Sherry, who had been missing for a while. When she asked Jin about Zia, she was told he had just left because of some family issue. When she caught up with him, he revealed that his father was facing a lawsuit and things were falling apart. She then went to check on Sherry, only to find out that her father was being transferred for work outside of China. Frustrated by all the chaos, she decided to put an end to it. She called her assistant and ordered them to cancel everything her mother-in-law had instructed them to do. However, she set one condition in return. Her mother-in-law had to stay away from her son. The mother-in-law, unimpressed, called her arrogant. "Do you think the whole world bows down to you just because you're richer than everyone else? That doesn't make you better than us." Calm but firm, she shot back, "You're nothing but a cheap, heartless woman. That's all you'll ever be." She walked away, gathering her clothes from the house, ready to return to her village. Dao Ming showed up and told her to come inside because it was raining. She told him she couldn't stay with him anymore and was going back to her village. He begged her to explain what had happened. "We were just happy together. What changed?" She confessed that his mother had hurt her friends and that she couldn't continue being selfish by staying with him. He yelled, telling her to forget his mother and rely on him instead. He would protect her. But she had already made up her mind. To push him away, she said hurtful things she didn't mean, even claiming she didn't love him. She told him she was leaving and walked away. At the university, his friends couldn't understand why she had disappeared so suddenly. Josie suspected it was because of what Dao Ming had said to her. Then Jia showed up, furious, blaming Dao Ming for her disappearance. "Because of you, she's homeless and has nowhere to go," he shouted. Dao Ming, overwhelmed, shouted back, "I have enough problems of my own." Her absence had affected him deeply. Even when a girl approached him with a cake to confess her feelings, he rejected her harshly, throwing the cake in her face. Meanwhile, she was in her village, helping her family. She told her parents she had returned because she missed them, not because of her breakup. Daoming was struggling. His friends gathered to cheer him up, joking around and trying to lift his spirits. But he snapped at them, saying, "Stop pretending, you're all boring," and walked away. Josie tried to stop him, saying, "We're trying to help you, what's bothering you so much?" Daoming, however, felt like they were all just putting on a show. Josie finally lost his patience and said, "She didn't leave you for no reason, it's because of your stupid personality." This led to a physical fight between the two until they both calmed down. Daoming walked away in silence, trying to cool off. Back in the village, she was helping her mother in their family restaurant, cooking her own recipes. One day, the owner of the building approached them, saying she wanted to partner with them and wouldn't charge rent anymore. Her mother refused, saying her daughter's recipes weren't for sale and that she didn't want anyone else to know them. But she suggested they wait, as her daughter could easily come up with new recipes. Both parties agreed, and everything went smoothly. As time passed, she became very successful at the restaurant. Customers were amazed by her cooking, taking videos of her as she worked. One of these videos went viral, and Daoming saw it online by chance. He was proud of her, but also deeply emotional. Josie decided to tell him where she was, urging him to go see her. But Daoming was angry. "Why should I go? She left me so easily. If you want to see her, go by yourself. Don't drag me into it." The next day, Josie went to see her in the village. "I'm here to take you back home," he told her. She invited him to eat with her family. Embarrassed, she didn't know what to say. Josie explained to her parents that she had been away from university for too long and couldn't stay in the village any longer, even if she wanted to. Later, as they walked together, he told her, "When you return, you'll probably run into Daoming. You should be prepared for that." Josie didn't understand why she couldn't just tell Daoming her fears, but she loved him too much to burden him. She knew their relationship wouldn't survive because of his mother, so there was no point in giving him false hope. Daoming, unaware of her reasoning, continued to watch her videos obsessively, his heart breaking. Eventually, she returned to the city with Josie. While looking for a place to rent, she discovered that Daoming's friends had already taken care of everything and had prepared a space for her. "Don't worry," they told her. "We've got it all sorted out." When they arrived, her friends were waiting for her, along with Xiaoji, and they had prepared the apartment for her. They even bought the furniture at their own expense. They all sat down to celebrate together, and she felt happy to have friends who cared for her and worried about her. Meanwhile, Daoming saw the photos she had posted with them, showing her smiling and having a great time while he was drowning in his sadness. At university, Shimin asked Woozi about where Chelsea was, hoping to tell Daoming. But Woozi refused, saying he wouldn't reveal her location unless Daoming asked him directly. Even when Daoming showed up, he warned Mizu not to speak. When they were leaving, they ran into her outside. She quickly ran off, not ready to face him. Josie, however, had had enough. He asked Daoming to meet him alone for a talk. He asked if Daoming planned to get back with Chelsea, but Daoming replied, "Since when do you care about other people's business?" Josie decided to be honest with him. Josie confessed that he had always stayed out of Daoming's way, wanting to see him and Chelsea happy together. But now that their relationship seemed over, Josie felt he had the right to pursue her. He admitted that he had liked her for a long time, but held back because he believed she was happier with Daoming. "Now things are different," Josie said. "I won't let her cry over you anymore, so you need to decide. Either you go back to her or you let me try to win her over." Daoming coldly replied, "Do whatever you want, it doesn't matter to me." Later, Daoming confronted Chelsea in front of Josie, pulling her aside to talk. "Do you hate me that much that you'd just disappear like that?" She tried to make excuses, but he called her out. "You always run away from answering properly," he said, frustrated. Fearing for her friend's safety because of his mother, she finally told him the truth. But Daoming was upset. "If you had been honest about your feelings instead of playing with me like a puppet, things wouldn't have gotten this bad." She was about to confess her love for him, regardless of the consequences, but he interrupted her. "Don't cry. Even if you do, I won't help you." He told her not to avoid him anymore at university and that their relationship was over. "You can do whatever you want now." As he walked away, she stopped him, pulling out the necklace he had given her, but he took it and threw it into the water. She immediately started searching for it, determined to retrieve it. Josie jumped in and pulled her out of the water, urging her to forget about the necklace, but she refused. He eventually joined her in searching, and when he found it, she took it from him, realizing she could no longer deny her feelings for Daoming no matter how hard she tried. Josie took her to a rooftop where she could scream and release all her emotions. He knew she needed to let it out. One day, her grandmother called her, scolding her for not checking in and asking her to meet. They met at a restaurant where her grandmother asked about her relationship with Daoming. Chelsea explained that they had broken up because of his mother, recounting the entire story. Her grandmother told her she had made a mistake. You sacrificed your happiness to save your friends, but in the process, you hurt yourself. That was wrong. No one else will feel the pain inside you except you. Chelsea started crying with every word her grandmother said because she knew she was right. After her grandmother left, Chelsea stood there thinking for a moment before running after the car to confess the feelings she couldn't share with anyone else. She admitted that she still loved Daoming and couldn't stay away from him. The next day at university, she saw Daoming standing with his friends and approached him as if nothing had happened. Even his friends were surprised by her behavior, thinking she was possessed or something. They assumed she was just trying to adapt to their breakup. Daoming, however, was furious. He thought, if only she had confessed her love to me, I would have stood up to the whole world for her. She has no right to act like the victim now. On the day of Daoming's graduation, Xiaoji approached Wuzi and asked him to help her win Chelsea's heart so she could get closer to Daoming. Wuzi refused, but she argued that they were both suffering anyway. She believed if Wuzi got closer to Chelsea, she might eventually forget Daoming. Wuzi reluctantly agreed to her plan. Later, Wuzi performed a musical piece for Chelsea in front of the whole class, with everyone watching. When he finished, he hugged her. As she tried to pull away, he asked her to give him some of her time now that he was graduating. One day, Chelsea ran into Xiaoji and decided to sit with her for a chat. During their conversation, Chelsea casually asked if Xiaoji liked Wuzi and how she hadn't been affected by his heartfelt performance. Chelsea explained that she saw Wuzi only as a friend who made her feel safe. Suddenly, Xiaoji became flustered and tried to rush Chelsea out, saying she might be late for work. Chelsea left, confused by Xiaoji's awkwardness. She soon saw Daoming walking into the cafe to meet Xiaoji and realized the situation. Things might be getting back on track between her and Daoming. Xiaoji asked Daoming if he would give her a chance, but he replied that he still loved Chelsea. Trying to hold back her emotions, Xiaoji smiled and said, "That's fine. At least we can still be friends." Meanwhile, Chelsea began to hope that she and Daoming might reconcile, only to fall into depression when she thought they wouldn't. It started to affect everyone around her. One evening, Wuzi offered to walk Chelsea home and thanked her for trusting him and letting him support her through everything, from helping her find a place to live to just being there for her. He tried to get closer to her, but she hesitated and told him it would be hard for them to be together. Wuzi already knew that, but said he would stay by her side even as a friend. He also advised her to hold on to her love for Daoming because she would regret it if she didn't. The next day, Daoming woke up determined to do what he had to before it was too late. He went straight to Josie to tell him he wouldn't give up on Chelsea no matter what. Josie replied, "Good that you've come to your senses, but in the end, she's the one who has to choose between us." Later, Josie called Chelsea and asked her to turn off her phone for the day. Meanwhile, Daoming was searching everywhere for her, trying to call her, but her phone was off. The next morning, Wuzi went to pick Chelsea up from her house, just as Daoming was heading there after finally finding out her address. Wuzi told Chelsea that Daoming had called him the previous night, saying he wanted her back and that he seemed determined this time. At that moment, Daoming arrived and told Chelsea he couldn't stay away from her anymore. But Wuzi stepped in and told Daoming, "It's too late. She's made her decision and isn't coming back to you." When the bus arrived, Chelsea got on without saying a word and left them both behind. Daoming ran after the bus, unable to let Chelsea go. Just as he was about to lose hope, she got off the bus too. Turns out she's as stubborn and clueless as he is, and couldn't bear to stay away from him. But of course, these two can't have peace for long. It's us who have to suffer through their antics. Suddenly, the police showed up to arrest Chelsea for stealing a necklace. Why? Because our genius Daoming had filed a theft report about it when he couldn't figure out where to find her. He thought the police would bring her to him. Oh Lord, give me patience. I can't handle these kids anymore. When Chelsea was released, she yelled at him a bit, but then forgot about it and hugged him tightly. Their touching reunion was cut short by the sound of their rumbling stomachs, so they went to grab some food. Over dinner, Daoming told her they should go to London together. Chelsea wasn't keen on the idea since she didn't know anyone there and doubted she could adapt. He asked her, "If you don't want to come with me, why did you get off the bus?" She gave him a silly answer. "Isn't it my right to get off?" Annoyed, Dowming walked away because of course he has his moments of sulking too. Chelsea ran after him, but instead of saying she'd go with him, she awkwardly said, "All right, good night then." Later, Dowming confronted Woozy, warning him to stay away from Chelsea. Woozy responded, "She hasn't come back to you yet, so I still have a chance." Dowming grabbed him, insisting he back off. Woozy, in a surprisingly calm tone, said, "Fine, I'll stay away." But Woozy wasn't entirely serious. He only said it to provoke Dowming into holding on to Chelsea and calming his temper. Deep down, Woozy genuinely wished for Chelsea's happiness, which is why he kept nudging her back toward Dowming. One day, Woozy left Chelsea a voice message before heading to Taiwan. In it, he admitted that he had wanted to win her over, but understood that her heart belonged to Dowming. He wished them both happiness. Chelsea, touched by his words, ran to the rooftop to see him off, reminiscing about all the good moments they had shared. Meanwhile, Dowming was wandering around aimlessly when Chelsea suddenly approached him. She seemed determined to confess her feelings, but hesitated again. Instead, she handed him some food as a way to express her emotions. She asked him if he was dating Xiaoji, to which he replied, "Stop being ridiculous. I could never date someone I don't love." Chelsea then asked, "Would you promise to date me then?" Her sudden question caught him off guard, and he nearly choked in surprise. She has this habit of getting his hopes up only to leave him hanging again. Poor guy. It's not like he's a prize in a box of cereal. But this time, Chelsea assured him she was serious. She wanted them to get back together, but begged him not to tell anyone, especially their friends, because they might let it slip. And she was terrified that his mom would find out and separate them again. Dowming agreed but pulled her aside, wanting to kiss her. She nervously stopped him, worried someone might see. He said, "We're in the middle of nowhere. Who's going to see us?" She confessed she was embarrassed because just standing so close to him was enough to make her heart race. Elsewhere, Josie and Shimmy were plotting to help the two reconcile. One day, Chelsea noticed some strange people following her. When she ran into Josie, she told him to hide quickly. After the strangers left, Josie explained they were Dowming's bodyguards, hired by his mother to keep an eye on him. Josie warned Chelsea not to go home that night for her own safety. So, Chelsea decided she'd stay at her friend Sherry's place instead. But Josie told her Sherry was with Shimon, and it looked like he was about to charm her. Josie thought it'd be better to let Chelsea know so she wouldn't feel guilty about interrupting. Chelsea realized Josie was truly a supportive friend, and rushed to catch up with Sherry. Meanwhile, Josie and Shimon had locked Chelsea and Dowming in a room together, with Dowming tied up. It turned out they were trying to set them up. Of course, Dowming didn't object. If he had known this was the plan, he would have thanked them instead of needing to be tied up like that. Chelsea looked for a way out, but Dowming teased her, saying, "Come on, what exit? We're here together." He stepped closer and they started talking. She asked him if he had ever been with other girls before her. Dowming admitted that while he never loved anyone else, his friends often introduced him to other girls, and he didn't always reject their advances. Chelsea began to feel jealous, which made Dowming smile, enjoying her reaction. Their moment was interrupted by a call from Dowming's friend, who warned him that his bodyguards were coming after him. They quickly hid in the bathroom. Chelsea escaped barefoot through the window, while Dowming sat in the bathtub pretending to take a shower, with his clothes on. The bodyguards didn't buy it, and Dowming was left fuming at his mother for scaring Chelsea off like she'd committed a crime. Later, Dowming called Chelsea to make sure she got home safely, and she reassured him that she was fine. The next morning, they met so she could retrieve her shoes. Dowming caught her doing some morning exercises, looking like she was in a school gym class. They went to a quiet spot, only to realize they were out of their depth in handling the intensity of their relationship. Sitting in awkward silence, Dowming suddenly confessed his love for her, waiting for her response. But as always, Chelsea hesitated, unable to say a word. If he walked away now, she probably wouldn't stop him. I know I'm personally getting fed up with her indecisiveness. That evening, Shimon hosted a tea party and invited everyone, including Dowming and Chelsea. Since no one knew about their relationship, they acted as though they barely knew each other. Dowming's friends nudged him to offer her something to drink, which led to them sitting together and enjoying the party peacefully. But Chelsea eventually left the party feeling upset. Dowming followed her, asking what was wrong. She confessed that she was sad because their friends were so worried about them when, in reality, they were hiding their relationship from everyone. Dao-ming retorted, "You won't even admit your feelings for me, so how do you expect to tell them anything?" Chelsea was about to confess her love when they overheard Sherry confessing her feelings to Shimon, only to be rejected without hesitation. Chelsea went to comfort her friend and later sat with Dao-ming, visibly distressed. Dao-ming, frustrated, told her, "Instead of worrying about others, maybe focus on our relationship first. It's so unclear, even I don't know where we stand anymore." He pressed her to share her feelings, but once again she avoided answering. Fed up, Dao-ming walked out, deciding it would be the last time he'd see her. But Chelsea ran after him, finally shouting out that she loved him. She confessed to everyone that they had been secretly dating. Dao-ming hugged her tightly as she silently vowed to hold on to him and stop hiding their love. One day, Chelsea was calling Dao-ming when she heard someone trying to open her door. She went to check what was going on, only to scream when she saw someone trying to break in. Dao-ming, hearing the commotion, couldn't understand what was wrong. The thief, unable to open the door, ran off. Chelsea calmed herself down, pretending nothing happened until she heard a loud knock on the door again. Grabbing a frying pan, she was ready to fight back, convinced she'd make headlines for taking down an intruder. But it turned out to be Dao-ming, who hugged her tightly, worried for her safety. He insisted she leave the house and come with him since it wasn't safe there anymore. She refused, so he offered to stay the night to protect her, but she forced him out despite his protests. Still, he stayed outside the whole night, keeping watch. The next day, as she was returning home, she noticed lights on in the supposedly vacant house next door. Curious, she knocked on the door to alert whoever was inside, only to find Dao-ming, who had rented the place to keep an eye on her. He tried to brush it off, saying, "It's just between us. I'm keeping an eye on my pet in case it runs away." Chelsea glared at him. "Oh, so I'm the pet now? Thanks a lot." That night, Dao-ming found himself unable to sleep. He admired Chelsea's resilience in handling her challenging circumstances, and felt lucky to live so close to her. He almost went over to see her but stopped himself, not wanting her to misunderstand. Instead, he went out for fresh air, only to bump into her outside. Sitting together, she asked him why he was awake. He confessed he couldn't sleep and cheekily asked her for a hug before she left. "Just one hug?" she asked skeptically. "Come on, why not make it two?" he teased. But he knew deep down that if she indulged him, he wouldn't let her go. He was greedy like that. The next day, Chelsea returned home and found him missing. She waited for a long time, growing frustrated because all she could think about was him. Hearing scratching noises, she went to investigate and found him swatting mosquitoes. Annoyed, she scolded him, saying the place was too tough for him to handle and he should return home. But he insisted, "I want to adapt to life here and be a part of your world." Feeling moved, she offered, "If you can't sleep, I'll stay with you tonight. But don't get any ideas. It's like how your mom used to sleep next to you when you were little." Dao-ming smirked. "But my mom used to hug me like this." She rolled her eyes and jokingly sang, let's sleep, I'll cook us a feast of pigeons tomorrow." "Your singing is awful," he retorted, pretending to cover his ears. She playfully pinched his ear to teach him a lesson. As they settled in, she admitted she felt happy for once because he was trying to understand her life better. Dao-ming, touched, whispered that he wanted to turn around and hug her, but she was already fast asleep. One day, as she was heading home, she noticed his bodyguards lurking nearby. Panicked, she called him to warn him, only to find out he was already inside. Rushing in, she grabbed him, and they decided to find a safe place to hide. They ended up at his house, figuring his mother would never suspect he'd bring her there. He distracted the bodyguard while Chelsea snuck inside. After freshening up, she came out wearing his clothes, catching him off guard. He couldn't resist inching closer to her, but she placed her hand on his chest, stopping him. He asked her directly, "Are you uncomfortable with us getting closer, or are you afraid of me?" She hesitated, as always, unsure of how to proceed in their relationship. Before they could figure it out, his sister barged in, furious, thinking Dao-ming was pressuring Chelsea into something she didn't want. But Chelsea stood up for him, admitting she was the one who allowed it. Dao-ming was thrilled their relationship had progressed, but his sister scolded him, warning him not to rush things or take their relationship further in secrecy. He needed to ask her when she would feel ready to take their relationship to the next level, not decide on his own. His sister told them to carry on with whatever they were doing while she distracted the bodyguards for their sake. So he asked her, "When do you think we should move forward in our relationship?" She replied, "In 5 years." One day, as he was heading home, the bodyguard questioned him about bringing his girlfriend over. He simply replied, "What's it to you?" The bodyguard reassured him, "Even if you bring her here, we won't say anything." Still, Dowming felt something suspicious in their behavior. When he confronted his sister, she admitted she had instructed the bodyguards not to interfere. At university, the moment he saw Chelsea, he hugged her, but she panicked, worried someone might see them. He reassured her, saying, "Relax, my sister bribed them, they won't say a word anymore." Later, Chelsea heard from her friend Sherry that Shimin had been toying with her feelings again, acting distant one moment, then drawing closer the next. Furious, Chelsea demanded that Daoming take her to confront Shimen or else she would break up with him. When they got to Shimen, he was hanging out with other girls. Chelsea didn't hold back, scolding him, "How dare you sit here with other girls after leading Sherry on like that?" She berated him outside, calling him out for treating her friend's emotions like a game. But Shimen coldly replied, "Mind your own business," before walking away, leaving Chelsea fuming. Even Sherry was upset with Chelsea for interfering, saying it made her look desperate, as if she had sent Chelsea to fight her battles. However, Sherry refused to give up and asked Chelsea to help her track him down again. Chelsea, though reluctant, agreed after hearing he might be attending an art exhibition. They all decided to wait for him there, with Sherry's friends killing time on their phones, while Chelsea grew increasingly frustrated. She snapped at Daoming, who told her to calm down and promised to call Himen. But his phone was off. As night fell, Chelsea noticed Daoming looking drowsy and warned him, "You'll hurt your back if you sleep like that." But he seemed content leaning close to her. Eventually, when Sherry suggested giving up and trying again another day, Himen finally arrived. Sherry seized the moment to confess her feelings to him, and to everyone's relief, he agreed to hear her out. With that resolved, Daoming's friend Mazi jokingly said, "Now that the drama's over, we can go home. Thanks for sticking with us, guys." Meanwhile, Daoming had made a big decision. He wanted Chelsea to join him in London. He wasn't going to keep their relationship a secret forever. He needed to convince his mother and make it official. At first, his mother was opposed, but she eventually decided to trust him. One day, while they were out together, Chelsea spotted a cute bracelet. The shopkeeper explained it was Italian, and with a simple press, the other person's bracelet would light up, signaling that you were thinking about them. After they finished their meal, Daoming offered to pay, but Chelsea insisted on splitting the bill. However, when he tried to pay, his card was declined. His mother had blocked it. Embarrassed, he let Chelsea cover the bill. Outside, he vented his frustration about his mother's meddling, but Chelsea reassured him, saying, "No matter what happens, I'll stay by your side." When they returned home, she offered to cook for him sometime. He teased, "Sure, I'm used to food that gives me stomach aches." Before leaving, he asked for a kiss, saying, "I don't know if there will be a next time." She kissed him on the cheek, unaware it truly would be the last time. Moments later, his bodyguards arrived to take him back to London by force. He silently called Mazi, letting him overhear everything so he'd understand the situation. When Chelsea was informed that Daoming had been dragged back to London, she decided to be brave and follow him there, just like he had always tried to be close to her. When she arrived in London, she called Mazi to let him know she was safe. He warned her to keep an eye on her belongings to avoid getting robbed. As she waited, 2 strangers approached her. They started sweet-talking her, pulling a fast one, and ended up stealing her belongings. Even after she ran herself out of breath trying to catch them, she couldn't. Exhausted, she spotted a Chinese restaurant and decided to go in. The woman there was kind and welcoming, and Chelsea shared her story about coming to London to look for her boyfriend. But guess who she saw? Thomas, the same Thomas from China. He sat with her as she explained what had happened and why she was there. He reassured her, saying that the Ali Dooming family name was well known in London, and that he could help her find him. Thomas took her to his place, which turned out to be a modest apartment he shared with his musician friends, all of whom were struggling financially. When Chelsea asked to use his laptop to contact her friends, he admitted he hadn't paid his internet bill. As they were talking, his friends arrived. The moment Chelsea saw them, she exclaimed, "You thieves! It's you!" They sheepishly apologized, admitting they had sold her phone and spent the money, though they still had her wallet. Chelsea sat in disbelief, thinking how cursed her luck was, but she decided to forgive them and told them to quit stealing. The next day, Thomas took her to Daoming's house. The moment she arrived, she met his grandmother, who welcomed her warmly and invited her in. but she warned Chelsea to stay calm and composed, saying, "God help us." When Chelsea finally saw Daoming, his demeanor was cold, and he seemed indifferent to her presence. He told her to leave, saying he no longer wanted to be around her. Chelsea, however, suspected he was pushing her away because of his mother. Eventually, Daoming admitted that his company was going through a crisis, and he needed to fix things. He told her he couldn't just leave everything behind to be with her, because he wasn't selfish like she was. His words broke her heart, and she left feeling crushed. The truth, however, was that Daoming was acting this way because of his mother. The company was on the brink of collapse, and unless he married to secure her father's trust, everything would be lost. Later, Chelsea went out with Thomas, who offered to walk her home. On the way, they ran into Motzi, who had been worried sick since her phone had been stolen. She told him everything, including how Daoming had kicked her out. The next day, Chelsea woke up still upset. Motzi tried to comfort her, saying he knew Daoming wouldn't act this way unless there was a good reason, especially since his company was in crisis. To cheer her up, he suggested they go out for some fresh air and bought her ice cream. But of course, he forgot his wallet, turning their outing into a broke adventure for two. They later went to thank Thomas for helping Chelsea, despite his friends having robbed her. Motzi even insisted on treating Thomas and his friends to a meal. During the meal, Thomas asked Motzi why he had come to London after Chelsea. "Do you have feelings for her?" he asked. Motzi admitted, "Yes, I love her." Thomas then confessed that he too had feelings for Chelsea. He explained how the first time he met her, she had accidentally confessed her love, mistaking him for Motzi. Chelsea quickly yelled, "That's because I thought you were Motzi." She explained that at the time she was playing the piano with her grandmother and hadn't realized who she was talking to. Then came the moment of reckoning, the bill. You all know this was bound to be a disaster. Motzi suddenly realized he had forgotten his wallet. He exclaimed, "Oh no, my wallet isn't in my pocket." Feeling embarrassed, he suggested, "How about we earn our meal instead? See that piano over there?" They started playing music for the crowd to make it through the day without ending up in jail. One day, his grandmother went to check on him and asked if he needed anything. He replied that he wanted a dish from an old recipe. She was about to prepare it for him, but he decided to go and eat it directly from her hands. At that time, Chelsea was on the balcony packing her bags to return to China. Motzi asked her if she wanted to see him one last time, but she replied, "What difference does it make? He abandoned me either way." Motzi hugged her, not wanting to see her in that state. Meanwhile, Daoming arrived and saw them together. As Chelsea and Motzi were leaving, Daoming approached them. Motzi, unimpressed, told Daoming he didn't deserve her love. Daoming opened the car door for Chelsea and asked her to cook for him, as she had promised. She got into the car without replying, but after a moment she changed her mind and got out to fulfill her promise one last time. They decided to spend one last day together. When they arrived at a restaurant, it turned out Daoming knew the owner. She cooked the same dish Chelsea always made for him, and Daoming had been eating there for a while. As they sat down, Daoming confessed, "I've never truly tasted food or even understood if I loved the person in front of me or not. I didn't even know if I was happy or not. But meeting you changed my outlook on life. I'm not the same person I used to be. But despite my love for you, I don't know how to protect you." He then asked the restaurant owner if Chelsea could cook the recipe herself one last time. Afterward, they decided to spend the entire night together until the day was over. The next morning, as they were about to part ways for good, Chelsea couldn't resist and ran back to him. As they embraced, a man suddenly approached them and shocked Daoming with a taser. Chelsea fainted. When she woke up, she found herself on an island with Daoming lying unconscious beside her. When he woke up, he was surprisingly fine, acting as if nothing had happened. But back home, his mother was in chaos, furious because he was supposed to sign a contract with her business partner's father that day. Why would he be kidnapped on such a crucial day? She even received a video of Chelsea and Daoming tied up with a ransom demand. On the island, Daoming and Chelsea wandered around, searching for food until they found a bag with fishing tools, a lighter, and some water. They decided to rely on themselves to survive. At night, Daoming wanted to keep watch in case there were wild animals nearby. Chelsea, scared, hugged him tightly. He reassured her and went to scout the area, but returned quickly to calm her fears. She, worried, followed him, feeling like someone was approaching her. But it turned out to be nothing. The next morning, Chelsea woke up to find Daoming gone, but he soon returned. He had spent the entire night fishing for squid. While they were sitting together, he told her that he didn't deserve her and that Mozzie must have taken good care of her while he had hurt her with his words. She yelled at him, frustrated that he was acting like a fool, trying to push her toward someone else. She told him he was being ridiculous. He promised her that he would never abandon her again, no matter what. After that, they decided to leave the place and headed to the other side, where they heard people talking. When they got closer, it turned out to be his friends. He shouted at them, "What on earth is wrong with you?" She had suspected all along that they were behind this, but it turned out Xiaoji had orchestrated everything. She had her bodyguard kidnap them without anyone realizing it. Meanwhile, his mother had taken things to the next level, involving Interpol and the media in the search for him. Eventually, the police found them, but instead of being in distress, they were sitting romantically in a tent as if nothing had happened. To cover up, they told his mother it was just a harmless prank. The next day, as they returned to the mainland, they were met with a swarm of reporters. It was so chaotic they couldn't leave together. Chelsea got pushed aside in the crowd, unable to get through. Then out of nowhere, a man with a knife stabbed Daoming. He was rushed to the hospital, and thankfully the surgery was successful. However, he hadn't regained consciousness yet. His friends were taken in for questioning, as they were the last ones with him during the prank. When his mother arrived, she lashed out at Xiaoji for what she had done. Then she turned to Chelsea, making it clear she wasn't welcome. Chelsea, however, refused to leave unless Daoming himself told her to go. His mother, exasperated, stormed out dramatically. Later, as Chelsea sat beside Daoming, he started to wake up. Everyone rushed in to see him, but he complained of a headache and pretended not to remember anything, though he clearly remembered everyone else, including Xiaoji. Chelsea, heartbroken, tried to remind him of their memories together, insisting she loved him and would never give up on him, even if he forgot her. She vowed to make him fall in love with her all over again. Overwhelmed, she became hysterical, only for Daoming to suddenly reveal he was faking the memory loss to get her to confess her love. Annoyed, she tried to hit him, but he held her hands and started massaging her back, asking her to forgive him. He shrugged it off as a small prank, but she was furious. Life returned to normal, though the media wouldn't leave her alone, as it was now evident that she was Daoming's girlfriend. One evening, she met up with Sherry, who took her to hang out with Daoming and his friends. However, Daoming wasn't himself. He was drinking despite not being fully recovered. Frustrated, she scolded his friends, saying, "You call yourselves his friends and yet you let him drink like this? What if he gets sick again? I can't keep babysitting him for the rest of my life." Daoming took her outside, hugged her, and told her, "Your true place is in my arms." Suddenly, he pretended to be in pain. Alarmed, she touched his chest, asking what was wrong. He replied, "Just keep your hand there and I'll feel better." One day they were eating together, and Chelsea was worried about her friend Sherry. Ever since Shimin entered her life, nothing had gone right for her. Daoming teased her, saying, "Just like when I entered your life and turned it upside down, huh?" Chelsea stayed silent, but deep down she thought to herself that Daoming was the best thing that had ever happened to her. He suddenly proposed to her, saying, "Even though you're annoying and you'll probably drive me crazy and we might fight every day, I still want to marry you." She replied, "Who proposes to someone like that?" But she didn't make a big deal out of it, figuring he wasn't about to get down on one knee and ask formally anyway. At home, a man arrived with 520 roses from him, but of course she decided to count them. She had the time, after all. And surprise, one rose was missing. Furious, she called him to scold him. Moments later, he knocked on her door with the missing rose, but she called him ridiculous. He chased after her to show her who the real ridiculous one was. Later, he went to her parents' house in the village to formally ask for her hand in marriage. Her mom thought he should tell his mother first, as it wouldn't be right to get married without her blessing. Being impulsive, he video called his mother and told her he was marrying Chansey. His mom responded, "You think marriage is a game? You need to plan this properly, especially considering Chansey's family. They're not ready yet." He asked, surprised, "So you approve?" She replied, "Yes, I approve. Now get off the call and stop bothering me." He laughed and muttered something about how she could have just said that earlier. At the university, she waited for him to finish signing autographs for his fans. Yes, he was famous for his good looks. So good, it was almost annoying. She noticed he was wearing the same green shoes he wore the first day they met when he accidentally stepped on her phone. She told him, "Didn't I say not to wear those again? They brought us bad luck." His friends asked her for permission to throw him a bachelor party and take him off her hands for a bit. She laughed and said, "Take him, I don't need him." But he came back to her, so she shoved him toward his friends, telling them to keep him. As they were walking, she tripped and accidentally brought him down with her. They quickly got up before anyone noticed. He saw her shoe had torn and decided to carry her to get a new pair. At the store, he told her she needed to come home with him. She glared at him, shocked. "Are you crazy? Just because we're getting married doesn't mean you can start bringing me home like that." He smirked and said, "Stop with your dirty thoughts. I'm taking you to my grandmother so she can measure you for the dress," as if she hadn't been to his house before. Grandma took her measurements, and when he entered the room, he asked if they were done. She playfully asked, "Why? What do you want from me?" He grabbed her by the back of her collar and replied, "Do you even need to ask?" He had set up a romantic atmosphere, as expected from him, to confess his feelings to her again, making all the singles in the room groan in frustration. One day, his mother planned to visit Chansey's family to finalize the marriage details, but she canceled last minute and told them she wasn't approving the marriage. She had only been playing along so her son wouldn't get upset. Chansey told her family not to interfere in anything that happened between her and Dowming because she wouldn't let her family be disrespected under any circumstances. She said she'd handle things herself. She then went to his friends to see if they knew what was going on. Mozzie told her Dowming had been missing since the day before. It was clear she was stalling and planning something. Dowming's friends decided to go to his house and sneak in without anyone noticing. However, Grandma spotted them. She had been expecting them to show up. She told them Dowming was locked inside. When they entered, they found his mother sitting by his side while he lay unconscious, unaware of anything happening around him. She saw his friends as a bad influence, blaming them for his current state. She insisted that Dowming would only marry Xiaoji for his own good and the benefit of the company. Meanwhile, Xiaoji was reluctantly preparing her wedding dress under pressure from her family. Dowming's friends decided to take Xiaoji with them to convince Chansey to go see Dowming. Ever since his father locked him up, he had been refusing food and water to the point where his life was at risk. The plan was simple. Chansey had to convince him to marry Xiaoji, even if he didn't want to, because holding onto his love for Chansey could end up killing him. Reluctantly, Chansey agreed, but on one condition. Xiaoji must not invite her to the wedding under any circumstances, as she wouldn't be able to wish them happiness. When Chansey arrived at the house, Dowming's mother agreed to let her in as long as she was there to convince him. As soon as Dowming heard Chansey's voice, he got up and sat on the floor. Chansey told him she had realized their love was meaningless and was just a fleeting distraction, but Dowming didn't believe her. He was certain she was lying because she was worried about him and wanted him to move on with his life. Dowming, however, had made a promise to himself and to her that he would never give up on their love. Chansey felt weak compared to him, unable to do anything for him, while he was willing to sacrifice everything to stay by her side. Moved by his determination, she admitted he was right. She told him she should have been stronger and should never have given up on him. She promised she would stay by his side no matter what. When she left the room, she declared that she wouldn't try to make him leave her anymore. If he refused to eat, she wouldn't eat either, even if it meant they would both die. His mother warned her not to think this would make her relent. Chansey replied, "I feel sorry for you. You should be ashamed of what you're doing. If anything, you should feel sorry for yourself." She then walked out into the rain, determined not to move, eat, or drink, no matter how much they tried to persuade her otherwise. Dowming's sister arrived, furious at their mother's behavior. She couldn't believe their mother was okay with her son dying inside while the woman he loved stood out in the pouring rain. She told her mother that she was selfish and didn't even understand what motherhood truly meant. Her mother slapped her in response, insisting that she was their mother, and they had no right to question or refuse her decisions, as if she were some angel descended from heaven. The day passed, with Dowming still refusing to eat and Chansey standing in the rain, unmoving. Eventually, Xiaoji stepped in and told Dowming's mother that she wouldn't marry him. Her father also opposed the marriage, urging Dowming's mother to let go and allow the couple to reunite. In return, Xiaoji presented the finalized business contract Dowming's mother had wanted all along. Finally, they told Chansey that everything had returned to how it used to be, and no one would separate her and Dowming again. The moment she entered his room, however, she fainted. When she woke up, it felt like a dream. She heard Shimin telling her that Dowming had left for London and was going to marry Xiaoji. Not this again, she thought. How many times are we going to repeat this cycle? What is this, some endless loop like in a movie? Just then, she bumped into a man and fainted again. When she regained consciousness, Dowming was there, waiting for her in a suit. He told her he'd only marry her if she obeyed him. She found his words strange, as if he had reverted to his old narcissistic self. Suddenly, he disappeared, and Dowming's sister appeared, telling Chansey to choose one of the F4 guys to marry instead. Chansey refused all of them because she only loved Daoming. They then revealed the ultimate plan. If you won't marry anyone else, the only option left is to marry Daoming himself. The groom entered, proposing to her for real this time. Everyone laughed, teasing her for falling for their trick so easily. His sister nudged him forward, saying, "Go on, bro. Marry her already and let's wrap this up." Finally, they got married, putting an end to their endless drama, which had been giving everyone a headache. One day, they smelled something burning and discovered that Daoming's mother had tried to make them breakfast but failed miserably. She told them it was the first and last breakfast she'd cook for them because she planned to leave, live independently, meet new people, and finally take control of her own life. She was tired of burying herself in work and wanted a fresh start. Days turned into weeks, and the couple lived their life happily, playing around, joking, and exploring places together like any other married pair. Don't forget to subscribe for more. Check out more recaps you'll absolutely love right here.